This is a story from more than 100 years ago. A story that began over a century ago and continues to this very day. It is the story of a certain sport. A sport loved across the globe, inspiring passion in every corner of the world, and passing down countless tales of triumph, tragedy, and glory through generations. That sport is football. Over the years, football has given rise to an immeasurable number of stories. But in this first chapter, let us begin by briefly exploring how football itself came to be. Ball games have existed since ancient times. Long before the Common Era, people all around the world enjoyed games played with a ball, often as part of festivals, public celebrations, or simply as a form of entertainment, each with their own local rules and customs. In England, which is often regarded as the birthplace of modern football, a game known as mob football emerged around the 12th century. It was typically played by entire villages, with teams numbering in the dozens. The objective was simple: carry or propel a single ball into a goal set up in the opposing village. Players could use both their hands and feet to move the ball, and, in practice, their hands and feet could also be used on their opponents. In other words, physical aggression, tackling, and even outright violence were permitted as means of winning possession or hindering the other team. As one might imagine, such matches frequently descended into chaos, with fights breaking out between players and riots erupting among spectators. Some even ended up in court. This rough and lawless mob football, in which brawny and hot-blooded villagers fought without restraint over a single ball, is said to be the ancestor of the modern game. However, it wasn't until the 19th century that proper rules were established, and football began to evolve from a legalized brawl into a respectable sport. In Britain, public schools, elite institutions designed to educate the future leaders of the country, had long played an important role in shaping society. By the 19th century, many of these schools began adopting team sports as part of their physical education programs, with the aim of fostering discipline, teamwork, leadership, and physical strength alongside academic excellence. Among these sports was football, which quickly gained immense popularity among students. As those students went on to university, the game flourished there as well. By this time, the Industrial Revolution had transformed Britain. The development of railways and other forms of transport made inter-school matches far more common and practical. But then, a problem arose. Each school had its own version of the rules, and players who had grown up in different regions brought their own local interpretations of how football should be played. For example, should players be allowed to carry the ball in their hands, or was that strictly forbidden? When teams accustomed to different rule sets met, simply agreeing on which rules to follow could prove a major challenge. This situation prompted a movement to establish a unified code of football. In 1848, representatives from various schools gathered at the University of Cambridge to draw up a standardized set of rules. At that meeting, clauses were added to the rulebook prohibiting the use of hands, offside play, and acts of violence such as charging or kicking opponents. Thus, the foundation of modern football was laid, the creation of what became known as the Cambridge Rules. And in 1863, schools and local clubs that adopted these new rules came together in London to form the Football Association, the FA. Football played under the FA's rules became known as association football, and the colloquial abbreviation soccer, derived from association, would later spread around the world. Meanwhile, those who preferred the handling version of the game chose to part ways and continue playing according to their own traditions. Among the schools that led this movement was rugby school. In 1871, in opposition to the FA, they founded the Rugby Football Union, marking the official birth of rugby. Thus, while football and rugby share the same roots, They each evolved along their own paths, and over time, both became beloved sports with global followings. As a side note, the rugby ball is oval-shaped because it's easier to cradle securely in one's arms while running, unlike a perfectly round ball. And that, in short, is the story of how football was born.